All right, men, welcome back. We are in week 1 and we are talking about limiting beliefs or beliefs that limit you and hinder you in some way or fashion. If you were to ask me what is the most detrimental thing inside of the lives of Christian men, and I would say it is detrimental beliefs. And of course, if you were to ask me what is the most beneficial thing that Christian men can learn inside of recovery and discipleship, I would say how to overcome, smash, and destroy those limiting beliefs. And so that is the topic, and I'm excited to dive in. So first I want to talk about this concept of sabotage. Okay, sabotage at its very definition means a deliberate subversion. That means somebody has decided to deliberately and intentionally sabotage. Now this is really the story of the ages if you think about this. If you've read the Bible, you kind of get the narrative, you understand what it's trying to communicate to us, and that is there has been a sabotage going on. There has been a deliberate subversion since the beginning of time. So God created man, and he created man in his image, right? And he gave them earth, and they were meant to rule and reign and have dominion. They were meant to exercise their authority. They were meant to be in control and all of these different things. And so from the first chapter of the book, we see a sabotage and we see a subversion. And that is something that is offered, something that is enticing, and something that would cause the plan of God to be subverted inside of the hearts of men. So God had a plan inside of creation. I've talked about this many a times, but that his intention was for man to become like him, to be a creator, begin to rule and reign, and begin to have dominion, exercise authority, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth, right? And then God, as we know, had an enemy. And this enemy thought to himself somewhere before this time set that he was going to extend his throne and that he was going to be like the Most High. And what we see here is a jealousy begin to rise and an enemy that begin to be created, and a influence and a power that begin to subvert the plan and the intentions of God upon this earth. So that being said, there is an influence of sabotage, an influence of subversion inside of this world, and the intention is to overthrow and to destroy the plan. Now we see this happening inside of the garden, inside of the plan of creation, that God had a purpose and intention, and we see sabotage and we see subversion from the very beginning. Now we go into the legacy of Abraham. Now Abraham couldn't have children, and he was meant to have a seed or an inheritance through him, through a child that would bring in the revelation of Jesus Christ and would be much like the stars in the sky, right? Now there became a great dilemma because he didn't have any children. He was getting very old, right? So the subversion and the sabotage was maybe he should go into have sexual relations with his maid, right? And so to put that in modern day tense, it's like, I can't have children, so maybe the house cleaner that comes by, maybe I can have children through the house cleaner, right? So we see that in modern day terms, looking at that, and it's like, that's not a very good plan, right? In fact, the plan was the ultimate subversion, and that is creating almost like a sabotage situation that was going to happen. So we see something inside of Abraham's life that was meant for his subversion, and that was meant to really conquer and overcome the plan of God that was happening inside of his life. And so we see this with Jacob facing starvation, that he was, God had a plan for his life, and his plan was to thrive and to grow and to expand. And then immediately he faces this situation that is going to bring him starvation, that is going to challenge really the plan that God had for his life. So we see, starting in creation and going to Abraham and going to Jacob, facing that starving moment. This is all a plan and intention and influence to sabotage and create subversion. I'm going to go into a couple more just so we establish the thread in the narrative here. That Joseph, he had an amazing plan of God on his life and was created to do something amazing and to do something great, right? And this subversion tactic, the sabotage happened, and he was sold into slavery at a very young age because his brothers were jealous. So we see here that there is an influence to create something amazing and something great, and then there's an influence of sabotage and subversion to begin to stop that from taking place. Moses. We see in Moses' life that the infant genocide that happened during his time, and that was the whole purpose and intention, was to sabotage the plan of God that was bringing a deliverer. You see, these spiritual people and these gurus and stuff, they had different hints and revelations of certain things that were going to take place. And they could feel it inside of the people that an uproar was about to begin to happen. And these things. So these very tactics were meant to stop, to sabotage a plan that was about to be unfold. So you kind of get the point here that each person, we can kind of see that there is an influence that wanted to create something great, and there's an influence of sabotage and subversion inside of that. Now Jesus tells a parable about the tares and the wheat. And the sower went and sowed wheat, okay? And then at the harvest time, or during the process of time, the wheat and the tares begin to grow. And they begin to see the tares. And Jesus says this, that an enemy has done this. And that he went forth with good intentions to plant something good and to create something amazing and something awesome. And then an enemy has come with a sabotage intents to begin to stop the plan that is about to take place. So we see that throughout the whole narrative of the Bible. What we also see is knowing and understand that he is coming with a kingdom of peace, and he shall rule and reign. And of his kingdom there shall be no end, and all of these different things about the coming real peace and utopia that is going to take place. And what we have at the same time is a subversion on this earth, is men thinking that they can accomplish this with their great minds and their great education, and that they think that they can bring in and usher in a utopia by genocide or picking the elite bloodline and the heritage and continuing that while getting rid of those who are not so good in the gene pool. You understand what I'm talking about? So, sabotage. And it all comes down to lies and deception. Lies, deception, and fear. Think about this for a minute with Abraham, that he was deceived into thinking that he had to create his own plan and begin to have sex with his handmaiden or his maid, right? To bring about the fulfillment and the promise of God. Now, all of that was a narrative that spun around in his head, okay? And it was a plan that he hatched. And what we understand through that is it was a form of deception and lies that he was entertaining, that he believed, and it brought about some actions and behaviors that manifested from believing that lie and that deception. So in that moment, I'm sure he's thinking about, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that I'm going to miss out. Now, this is the ultimate motivation of men, right? It's no mystery what motivates man, and it's really goes to the root in insecurity and fear of missing out or not partaking of a blessing, or fear of some sort of detrimental thing coming upon you. So he looked at his life and said, I don't have a child. I need to hatch a plan. I'm scared, and I'm going to begin to operate in fear now, and I'm afraid that I'm going to miss out. So I need to make sure that I begin to accomplish this in my own power, right? So we see these progressions laying out, that lies, deception, fear, and what it ultimately is caused the plan to be defeated, okay? So get that again. Lies, deception, fear cause the plan to be defeated. And so it was with Jesus that we all know that he was betrayed by the hands of Judas. And Judas, I'll read this for you real quick. He was one of the 12 named Judas, went to the chief priest and said, "What are you willing to give me to betray him?" And they weighed out 30 pieces of silver for him. And then he began to look for an opportunity to betray Jesus. What I want to point out here is that, he went to them and he asked them, "What are you willing to give me to betray him?" And so he wholeheartedly began to pursue this thing and to set out and seek after to accomplish this task. And then after he received the money, he was just looking for the opportunity to betray him. So what I want to notice here is looking for the opportunity. And so in all this conversation about sabotage, it all comes down to the intention is already there. The desire and the influence, the resisted influence is already present. Now that resisted influence, that's its plan, that's its intention, and that influence is just looking for the opportunity, okay? And once again, it is to sabotage you and to hold you back. So, within every area of your life, your family, faith, fitness, and finances, there is an influence that seeks to sabotage you, to begin to hold you back and destroy the plans and the intentions that you have for your life. And it's called the resistance, okay? But here's where we go wrong. And that is that we begin to side with the resistance. And then that what that means is the resistance is speaking this, and then we parrot what the influence, the sabotaging influence says, right? And that is the inner critic, the voice, all of these different doubts and fears. And what we do is, as we begin to mimic and we begin to parrot what the sabotager is saying, okay? And then this is what leads us to the ultimate self-sabotage, okay? And we ask ourselves, what is holding us back really? We know that there is a influence out there that seeks to sabotage us, right? But we also know that we have been given victory and we have overcome that evil influence, and we have choice and we have responsibility and we have empowerment and we have all of those things at our disposal. What that means now is that when I begin to partake of this situation, what I'm actually doing is partaking in self-sabotagement. That I am destroying myself and I am making the choice to do so. Now, there is a victim story of determinism out there that this sabotager or this evil influence, that we don't have the ability to resist and oppose this, and we are a product of our environment and all of these different things, not understanding that whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And now we now have this liberty. We now can begin to recognize this subverting influence that is going on inside of our lives, and we can stand up empowered in our authority and say, no, this is not happening to me. So self-sabotage. Proverbs 15:32 says this: those who disregard discipline sabotage themselves, but those who are open to correction gain understanding. So what I want you to thoroughly understand is these two words, and that is disregard and discipline. So when you disregard something, it means that you dismiss it, you refuse it, and you avoid it. Now, there is a certain thing that is being dismissed here and being refused and avoided, and it's discipline. And this ultimately comes down to our main issue, is that we don't want to beat our body and bring it into subjection to what the Spirit is saying in our life, right? It's too difficult. It requires too much. We're relying on mercy instead of really putting our body into subjection into our spirit and what we really want to take place inside of our life. So we're disregarding, avoiding, and refusing discipline. Discipline means this: control, gained by enforcing obedience. Now, this is what really needs to take place inside of our lives if we want to grow, if we want to be successful. And that is, there are impulses and there are desires that crop up that must be controlled and must be beaten and forced into obedience. It's called self-control. Okay, and when we disregard self-control, dismiss or avoid self-control, we are what? The Bible says we are destroying ourselves. How are we destroyed? By lack of discipline and lack of self-control. What does that mean? It means we're the one person responsible for actually shooting ourselves in our foot, right? Now, this takes the responsibility off the evil influence and saying, you know what, I'm just tempted all the time, and I'm just this, that, and the other thing, and the devil won't leave me alone, and get me, Satan, and all these different things. Not understanding that the self-sabotaging effect happens in here, inside our mindset, inside our refusal to begin to walk inside of discipline and self-control. So we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Now, shoot ourselves in the foot is a old terminology. It comes from a couple different sources. I found this kind of comical. But the first one comes from the Old West, when a cowboy wore his pistol in his belt holster, right? And he tries to draw his gun too quickly, and it accidentally goes off before he gets it out of the holster, and it results in him shooting himself in his foot. Okay? So I wanted to give you that mental picture. And also, a lot of people believed it derived from soldiers who were sick of battle, and the only way that they can get out is to be injured, and so they would take their gun and they would shoot themselves in the foot, and thereby cause themselves to be relieved from activity and to be relieved from duty. So we have these two analogies of shooting ourselves in the foot. But what it all boils down to is that we are the author and the creator of misfortune, okay? And that we are the ones that are actually causing our problems. And that is because we have these limiting beliefs and we refuse to practice awareness, to begin to look at them and to begin to examine them and look at what they are. We begin to walk in these things and we don't challenge them, and we fall for them every time, hook, line, and sinker. Okay? And we allow our mind to give us excuses and justifications and all the reasons why we can continue in the behavior that we know is killing us, that we know is destroying us, but yet we rationalize ourselves into that frame of mind, and we become what? The author and the creator of our own misfortune. Whenever I think about this, I think about the song "The Man in the Mirror." Michael Jackson, I'm asking him to change his ways. And so when the reality about this really hits us, about, yes, there is a sabotaging influence, that sabotaging influence is inside my mindset through belief systems and through thinking errors, and that I need to really challenge that influence first inside of my mind. This is the battleground. This is where everything is taking place, inside the hearts and the minds of men. And once we begin to understand that, we begin to understand the kind of battle that we are engaged in, and that we begin to understand the tactics of what is taking place. So, when we become the author of our own misfortune, that means we are aligning ourselves with the lies, the narrative that is going on inside of our mind, these false beliefs that limit us in a very real fashion. And we begin to be inspired by fear. And what that means is that we will constantly be destroying ourselves. And that is into a relationship, or a relationship that could be a good thing, right? And we kill the good thing. We kill it quick, right? And it can be something awesome and something powerful. It doesn't have to be a sexual relationship. It doesn't have to be a marital relationship. It could be any relationship, but it is a very positive thing. And what we do is we begin to be inspired by fear, and we begin to sabotage the relationship, and we begin to kill it. In fact, if anything good is happening inside of our lives, we kill it. This is what it really means to self-sabotage. Or we see a relationship that we definitely shouldn't get involved in, right? And we know that it's not beneficial for our growth and development, but yes, we engage in it, we participate in it, we rationalize and justify and all these different things, and this feels good, right? And we put ourselves and we put ourselves into a situation that causes us to kill the life that is inside of us, our spiritual life. Things might be going good for a cool minute, man. We are rocking it. We're learning how to practice self-control. We're forsaking addictions. We're walking in our authority. We're in the Word. We're doing all these things, right? And things are working. Things are working is because we are engaged in practicing the right things, right? And we're beginning to make investments inside of our lives, and things begin to work. All of a sudden, we begin to mess that up. Things are going too good. I don't deserve to have this connection with God and all these different things. And we mess it up by doing something severely stupid that brings us a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. And all of a sudden, we go back down into the pit. And we're like, woe is me, God, rescue me, deliver me, and all of these different things. Not understanding that we are the ones who put ourselves in that position. Number 3. Financial life, things are becoming good, right? We're experiencing some sort of prosperity. Things are bopping along. We have more than enough, and it's just really good. And we're just really thinking, when is this going to end? Because I know that this is not the way that life is supposed to be, right? And we have all these limiting beliefs surrounding finances. And what do? We make sure that we burn it to the ground, because we are self-sabotaging ourselves, and every good thing that begins to happen in our life, we kill it and we destroy it. We put ourselves into situations where we don't belong. We make multiple decisions that bring us a lot of pain. And life is going good in different areas, and we find a way to ruin it somehow. This is the reality of the self-sabotaging influence when we begin to align our mindset with that conversation and begin to parrot what is being said in insecurities and in fears. So why do we do this? This is really important. Why do we self-sabotage? At the bottom line of this, it is self-worth, and it's not believing that you are good enough. And here's the reality. If you don't feel like you deserve something, you'll make sure that you don't get it. I'll say that again. If you feel like you don't deserve something, you will make sure that you don't get it. And if by chance you do get it and you experience a little bit of relief and happiness, you will make sure to destroy it, because you are not worthy and deserving of any sort of happiness whatsoever. Okay? So the self-sabotaging mindset comes from insecurity and fear, but it comes from self-worth, and it comes from feeling like you are not enough. So this is the way it plays out in our life. Every time we come to the ceiling, that is the ceiling of the limiting beliefs that we have placed upon our life. This is our max. This is where we can go, right? And your beliefs keep you on that state and condition. When you come like this and you come up to the ceiling and you're getting close to the ceiling, right? You'll tap the ceiling and you'll get close to exalting and raising your standard and begin to living above and beyond what is norm, right? And you will feel the resistance, and then you will back off, okay? And you'll go back down to where you were. Now, we do this in multiple different areas of our frame: family, faith, fitness, and finances. And as we begin to rise, we begin to experience some sort of greatness inside of our marriage, and we begin to touch the ceiling that we're at. And we'll be like, wow, this feels good. Things are good. We're communicating. We're in intimacy. We're in oneness, and everything is going great, right? And then all of a sudden you hit that point of like, wow, this is cool. Well, if you believe that you're not worthy, you're not enough, you will destroy that, and you will burn that down. And you will do it by your actions and your behavior. You'll do something stupid, and things will begin to spiral back down to where you feel comfortable or what you feel like you deserve. Now, this happens inside of every single area of our lives. If we don't feel that we're worthy, we will bring ourselves back down to this place and condition. Paul talks about this a little bit in an analogy. He said, I don't do the things I desire to do. I don't do them. And those things that I don't want to do, those are the things that I end up doing. Now, I have to repeat this because it's kind of a little bit of a tongue twister and we have to wrap our minds around this. So I will do the first statement first. I don't do the things I desire to do. And that is, I desire to do things that get me up here towards my ceiling and bust through and begin to rise, begin to conquer, overcome, and destroy inside of my life, right? I desire to do things that bring me the best manifested fruit and results inside of my life. I desire to do those things, right? I don't do things that I desire to do, right? I don't break free. I don't bust that limit. I don't rise. I don't do none of those things. And the things that I don't want to do, those are the things that I end up doing. And what does that cause me to do? Spiral down. And it keeps me away from any form of greatness inside of my life, and it keeps me basking in just the mediocre. Okay? Another reason why we do this is because of shame. Now, shame because of our mistakes, because of our guilt, because of the different things that have happened inside of our lives. This shame causes us to self-destruct. In basic terms, what it means is that we hate ourselves. And we don't like ourselves. And we don't respect ourselves. And it's due to maybe certain behaviors, certain past, certain whatever. And it gives us an overall feeling of self-hatred. Now, this ultimately is where self-harm comes from. You know, we begin to harm ourselves when we begin to hate ourselves. And we begin to put all this shame and all this guilt and all this pressure upon our life. And all the self-harm is just to release us from the feelings that we are feeling of self-hatred. And this comes to the core problem of self-worth and not being enough. So, where in your life are you limiting your potential and your success? Where in your life is there a sabotager influence and is speaking very strongly in your life, and you are siding with this negative and critical influence, and therefore you're manifesting this mediocreness? Where in your life? This doesn't mean every single bit of your life is mediocre. This could be your spiritual life always goes to this mediocreness when you begin to feel like you're getting some victory. You're beginning to walk. You're beginning to make progress. And you feel like you don't deserve it. So you shoot yourself in your own foot. Okay? And you bring yourself back to the state and condition where you feel comfortable. Now, this can happen in any area of your life. So I challenge you to look at that and say, where am I self-sabotaging myself? Where am I destroying myself? And what am I willing to believe about myself to begin to change that? Okay? It all starts with self-worth and believing who God says you are and believing that you have and possess what God says you have and possess. All right, brothers. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.